This is the oil palm nursery for the state, Kaduna State Ministry of Agri, where we have been doing raising tenera varieties of the oil palm. And very recently, we know about the agri-transformation agenda, where Nigeria is targeting high-value crops, and we're using the strategy of the value chain, where we start from the market and work backwards to the producer. We know that in Nigeria, in the 60s, Nigeria had about 42% of the world trade market for oil palm. But along the line, in the 70s, when the issues of petrol came in, agriculture generally began to take the back seat. And particularly, we lost the trade market for our high-value crops like oil palm, cotton, cocoa, granules, and the rest of them. But with time, we know that agriculture is a gold mine, and the world attention is turning to agriculture. Nigeria is also keying in through the agri-transformation agenda, and particularly Kaduna State has also keyed in to the program. And one of the crops that is being promoted is the oil palm in 24 states, Kaduna State inclusive. And in 2012, based on that, we entered into an agreement with the Federal Ministry of Agriculture to raise 82,000 seedlings of tenera variety, which is a high-yielding variety, and our source is from the National Institute for Agriculture for Oil Palm Research in Benin, where we got the sprouted seeds. And when we entered that agreement in 2013, we got funding from the Federal Ministry of Agri to raise the seedlings. The 82,000 seedlings are raised in 3 different centers. This is just one of the centers with 27,380 seedlings. And then the other center is the Kaduna Garden, where we also have equal number, and a private owner, Magino Ventures in Kachia, is also raising an equal number. This program seeks to raise high-yielding variety and targeting about 292 youths in Kaduna State, because what we want to see is people producing high-yielding variety, improved variety. What we have, they are just wild growths growing on their own, and we have about 45,000 hectares of such wild growths that produces very little, just about 2 metric tons of fresh palm fruits, and that is grossly, very low. It's too low. But with this variety, we have up to about 10 metric tons of fresh palm fruits per hectare. And we want to encourage our youth and our women to grow this and begin to process the fruits into palm oil. Because the idea is that we have a deficit in the demand in the country. We have a demand of about 1.6 million metric tons, and Nigeria is only meeting 1.3. The balance of 3,000 metric tons is the gap is bridged through importation. We want to bridge that gap because Nigeria is spending over $500 million to bridge that gap, while we have the comparative advantage to produce oil palm and feed the world. So we want to gradually bridge up that gap and ensure that that money comes back to the farmers of Nigeria, and particularly Kaduna State, where we have the highest rate of unemployment, which is the highest in the country, of about 29% in the Northwest Zone. So we want to see how we can get our youths back to agriculture, because they have the energy, they have the direction, they have the the stamina, you know, to grow our crops and meet our needs. So this is what the value chain is all about. These seedlings are 9 months old on the field, and normally before you begin to give seedlings or sell seedlings out, they should be about 11 months in the nursery before you can do field planting. And we're targeting June for the GES program under oil palm.
Good afternoon. I'm still Hassan again. I want to know the lifespan. I mean, when this palm oil will be able to produce, when it will be producing and will be able to harvest it. How long does it take?
My question is, this is a nursery. Is there a federal farm somewhere that this will be going to, or you'll be selling it to private individuals where they will go and farm with it and produce what you want Nigeria to produce?
There are 92 youths to be engaged in this very nursery palm project. What incentives are there for them to get into work? Because this is not too convenient area for them to go. It's not cassava, it's not rice. It's an area that the youth may take patience to be there. What will you do to give them that very incentive they require, even to have other people to come into this very project?
Study stage, experimental stage. What's the measure taken, not just by the federal government, but the collaboration between the federal government and state government in involving ABU's area, you know, that's the agricultural department, and some other institutions in studying the differences that may occur in the course of the study, so that we expand to the stage that we could call it, you know, a federal might, you know, project passing.
First, for recognizing that it needs to accelerate the provision of jobs for the youth in this state who are jobless. The federal government already has the agricultural transformation agenda, and in seeing that window of opportunity, the Kaduna state government is exploiting it. This should be commended. Even though you are targeting just 292 in the meantime, taking off 292 unemployed persons off the streets is a huge achievement, because gradually there will be value addition, and then they will also be spending, and in the process of spending, there will be indirect jobs that are being created. However, the other point to make is that, again, we are seeing the practical evidence of part of the agricultural transformation agenda. Yesterday, when the Honorable Minister did his ministerial monthly press briefing, the focus was on the agricultural sector. And he gave extensive details as to what the federal government is doing with regard to GES, which you have just explained on this particular occasion. I'm not sure many of us knew that 24 states of the Federation could produce palm oil. You know, if you were to ask a good many, you know, to identify the agricultural produce in most parts of the country, I'm sure this will be located only in the Midwest and then the Southeast. But here we are, Kaduna State is opening up on this opportunity, and we do hope that you take good advantage of it. However, the question was asked, where we are now is actually a nursery. This is not the plantation. The real box will come from when you actually begin to run a plantation. Until I visited Malaysia, I didn't know, for instance, that oil had the upstream sector and then the downstream sector. And Malaysia is doing tremendously well in the palm oil sector. And so the target of the federal government also is to ensure that we ratchet up the value that we derive from our palm oil. And Kaduna State is already plugging into this. This is just the nursery stage, and I think that we have to be patient going forward, seeing what happens 3 years from now, 5 years from now, 7 years from now, when the palm trees begin to bear fruit and they get harvested and then they get sold. Unfortunately, we were unable to visit NIFO when we visited Edo State in the course of the Good Governance Tour. Is the Nigerian Institute for Oil Palm Research. It's just off Oluku Junction. I had the benefit of playing tennis there in the 70s. But, you know, it's the only institute, because the gentleman from FRCM was asking, whether there's collaboration from ABU and so on and so forth. NIFOR is the research institute that generates, these seedlings and then are then distributed. Again, Kaduna State will urge you to proceed with this, seek collaboration with the federal government, and seek also to reduce the unemployment rate in the state. Thank you.